Great. Well, I want to say good morning to everyone. My name is Glipta Sangreider-Jones, and I'm with the Kentucky Department of Education, and I will help kick off the meeting today. I'm going to pinch hit for Tony Constatman, and I know several of our members are joining us, and I want to say welcome. It's wonderful to see faces and to say happy start to the new school year. Just a reminder, please go ahead and keep yourself on mute, but feel free to unmute throughout the meeting to have conversation and to join in. But just kind of as a general rule of thumb, let's keep our microphones muted unless we're talking, and feel free to turn your screen on if you're in a place and able to do so. We'd love to see your faces on the screen in our virtual meeting. And I know some more members are joining us momentarily, but I'll go ahead and get started and say welcome. This is our first meeting of this Commissioner Student Advisory, and I'll kick over to give an overview of our agenda. And as you can see, we'll lots of things planned for our meeting today. We're going to be kicking off after our administrative opening with a mindful minute activity from Dr. Damian Sweeney. We're going to talk about the structure of the council, and we're going to hear from Dr. Byron Darnell here at KDE talking about Ed Rising and apprenticeship opportunities. We'll hear from Karen Dodd about our Kentucky United We Learn Council, and then we'll hear from our commissioner about the August 2023 board meeting, and then hear from him directly. And then we'll close out with a conversation of just student opportunities and what's happening in really your neck of the woods. So I know we have several more members coming in. And but at this point, I want to just say welcome, and I'll kick off with roll call. And the way this will work is I will actually just read everyone's name. If you want, go ahead and unmute and say present or say your name. But also, if you can't, please put your name in the chat. It's easier for us if we individually call out roll. So I'm going to begin, excuse me, just in a second and call the roll directly. So again, just say present or here when I state your name. Ava Benson. Isaac Blackman.
Here.
Welcome. Owen Borden. Cameron Breyer.
Here.
Good morning. Owen Graham Cody.
Here.
Good morning. Hunter Combs. Jude Dalla.
Here.
Good morning. Justin Dunning.
Here.
Ray Madett.
Here.
Manas Garla.
Here.
Good morning. Nicholas Edward Hazlett.
Here.
Honette Sangwa Arakizi. Apologies.
Here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Trey Avery Jackson.
Here.
Peter M. Jefferson.
Present.
Shraman Carr.
Here.
Good morning. Vijay Karthikeyan.
Here.
Sophia Langford.
I go by Seth.
Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you, Seth. Good morning. Danica Rose Love.
Here.
Gabriella McAdams.
Here.
Constance Ray Martin.
Here.
Anopa Masoni.
Here.
RJ Osborne. Tanvi Rakesh.
Here.
Daniel Clay Ratley.
Here.
Jocelyn Reddick.
Here.
Good morning. Amy Rablera Perez.
Here.
Caleb Robinson.
Here.
Good morning. Sophia Staples. Ian Swenson,
Here.
Mally Taylor, Sarah Umberger, Austin Vidito, Carly
trying to
Isabella
Here.
Watts, Bentley White,
Here.
Eliete Yanes Medina.
Here.
Good morning, India Young,
Morning. Here.
Joshua Isaac.
Here.
All right, welcome everyone. As you can tell, we have quite a large council this year, which is exciting to hear from so many different students for the council. So we've called roll and said good morning, and we look forward to talking more with you all today. I'm going to kick over, and the next administrative function is we're going to approve our summary, which was emailed out to you all, and I will include it on the screen here. But this is our summary from the last meeting, which was held in May. So our returning members would have been present for this meeting, and our new members would have not participated necessarily in this meeting. But I am going to screen share now, and you'll be able to review those minutes. So I'll pause for just a minute. We're going to need to have a motion on the floor and then an approval of these minutes. So you should be able to see on your screen the minutes from the last meeting. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
I make a motion.
And your name, please?
Bentley White.
Bentley, thank you. Motion from Bentley. Do I have a second?
Second from Peter Jefferson.
Thanks, Peter. And do all approve? You can just say yes or put yes in the chat.
Yes.
All in favor.
Yes.
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 All right.
Yes.
Any
Yes.
opposed? All right. Hearing no opposition and a consensus, those the minutes have been approved. So those have been our administrative tasks for this morning. And I will kick back over to our slide and then kind of get into our next agenda item, which is hearing from Dr. Damian Sweeney. So just a moment while I cue that back up.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Dr. Jones. So my name is Dr. Damian Sweeney. As you can see, I'm the Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging in the Office of Teaching and Learning at the Kentucky Department of Education. So each meeting, you will be led through a moment of mindfulness, and mindfulness is really, really important. I'm going to give you kind of the working definition of mindfulness, and my hope is that you'll see that it's so important that you'll find ways to infuse it within your own school environment. All right, that is the hope. So mindfulness is maintaining a moment-by-moment awareness of our thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and surrounding environment through a gentle, nurturing lens. And studies show that when students become mindful, it's going to help you with your academic performance. It's going to help you stop and reflect during the day and regain focus. It's actually going to help your educators as well. So this moment of mindfulness is going to be really important for you, not only during our meetings every month, but also during the school day, during each school day. So I used to be a school counselor in Jefferson County, and when I was a school counselor, this is something that I would do with my students all of the time, right? Lead a moment of mindfulness. Today's moment of mindfulness is going to be about empathy, and I'm going to ask you to really think about what that word means, not only by definition, but what that word means in your own life and in your own school. All right, so when we think about empathy, It means being aware of the emotional state of another person, engaging and sharing those emotions and taking action to support others. In other words, it means putting yourself in the shoes of somebody else. I tend to focus on students all students, but really think a lot about students that are underrepresented and students that have a really hard time at school. That might be because of bullying or because of some other reason. So I'm going to have you just take a moment in your own mind. You've only been at school for a few weeks, but I just want you to think about your peers, your students, your friends, people that you go to school with, and think about students, a single student that may have had a rough start to the year. Okay, just think about this student. And as you continue to empathize and put yourself in the student's shoes, how can you positively impact the student? How can you help create an environment and a school culture and climate that sees and hears the needs of students just like the one that you're thinking about? Right? So that's our task. We're really thinking about one single student that may have had a tough time, may have an ongoing difficult time, right? So may have had a difficult time for quite some time. And you're thinking about that student and then thinking about how can you as an individual show up for this student, be present for this student, whether that's walking up to him or her and giving them a high five or saying hello or just asking how their day's going or seeing if there's anything you can do or seeing if they want to hang out. How can you also think about your school and what would it look like for your school to create an environment where this student does not feel like they're invisible, but does feel seen and heard? Right? In a moment, I'm going to ask you to put that student's first name only, or you actually first initial, right? So if his name is Paul, you just put a P in the chat box. I want you to put that student's first initial in the chat box, and then I want to know one thing that you can do to brighten that student's day or week. All right, so let's go ahead and do that in the chat box. Put the first initial. What's one thing you can do to brighten that student's day or week? I'm going to give you about 2 minutes for that, and then I'll read some of those out loud, and then we're going to shift to thinking about if we were to support creating an inclusive school that saw and heard these students, what would that look like? All right. So 2 minutes, and then we'll get to our last prompt.
I don't have the chat option on mine. Like it says it's like I disabled or something.
Yeah, please. Thank you. I would love to hear you.
Oh, I'm just curious. How can I get the chat back on? Or I can just say it right now if you want.
Yeah, you can say it.
His name starts with an M and he's new, so I guess just try and welcome him into the school just any way possible.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm having the same issue. My chat box is saying that it's disabled and I can't type anything in it. But I'll go ahead and voice my student out loud as well.
I would love to hear that.
So his name starts with an M, and I think a way, which I've been trying to, is having more conversations with him in class. He's very quiet, and just getting to know his interests a little bit better too, and kind of finding something to bond over.
I love that. That's so good. Now, adults on the call, you're not off the hook. It's really, really important for us to take a moment and find somebody that we work with and really go out of our way to make that person feel seen or heard. Dr. Glass recently did this for me. He recently, I was in Atlanta and I was about to do a presentation, a national presentation on hip hop and school counseling. And this is one of those situations where you're really, really prepared, but you're nervous because you want people to like get it. You really want people to get it. So I was texting with him and said, what do you do when you're nervous before a talk, or how do you kind of calm your mind down? And I thought he might send like, just one little tidbit, but he gave me so many words of wisdom that I truly felt seen and heard by our Commissioner of Education. And I felt like he genuinely cared about my well-being. All right, so adults, please do the same thing as the students. Put that first initial of a colleague in the chat box. Let me know how you can make that colleague feel seen and heard as well. All right, while you are doing that, adults, I'm going to read some of these from our students. So we have somebody that says, I'm going to work with A. I'm going to give smile and spend time with them. Dolly says, G, I can work with them in class on group assignments. I love that. Monis, and I do hope I'm pronouncing your names right. Names are really, really important. So if I'm mispronouncing them, correct me. I want to get it right. Monis says, L, I can just have friendly conversations and ask how they're doing because I know they have been hurting emotionally recently. So that right there shows that you have this empathetic spirit, that you already see this person, and the fact that you're going out of your way to make sure that they are doing better with their emotional state is really, really great. So Peter says, A, I can give them my full attention to allow them to vent their current problems and work through them. Love that. Justin says, A, check up on them more often and include them in more projects. Yes. Ian, G, I can hang out with him, or I can invite him to my lunch table. I love that. Anytime I go into a school and it's lunch, my eyes immediately look for kids that might be sitting alone. Okay. As people that represent the Commissioner Student Advisory Council, I want you to start turning your eyes to do the same. Who's sitting alone? Who might be experiencing loneliness, bullying, or having a hard time, and just might need somebody to say, hey, why don't you sit with us? All right, just a couple more. Daniel, one thing I can do is spend time with him and make him feel better about himself. Love that. Zizak, Joshua, spend time with him to help him make more friends. And then Constance, he loves to work on segments for our school news show. So I'd love to film a new interview. I love that. Film a new interview segment. All right, let me see if we've got any adults that chimed in. All right, Karen is gonna work with Jay and spend extra time on presentation prep. Let's see, adults, come on, you're not off the hook. All right, so adults, while they are putting that in, I wanna ask one more question. Bentley, you've been such a great participant on this Commissioner's Advisory Council for such a long time, and I just look to you. I feel like you are a wise kid who is always helping us think about and reimagine the way that we do things. So I appreciate that, and you are good about doing that with your school. So I'm going to have everybody be like Bentley for just a moment, and if you can reimagine your school experience and what it would sound like, feel like, look like if your school created this moment of mindfulness, this opportunity for belonging, this opportunity for inclusion, where all students, regardless of their backgrounds, regardless of what they were going through, felt seen and heard. What's one thing that your school could do to encourage that? Put that in the chat box. Or if you don't have the chat box feature, feel free to come on mute. Or if you would just like to share your voice, feel free to share that. Come off mute and share your voice as well.
I feel like it would give a bunch of kids like the opportunity to have some of those feelings that are like way deep down inside of them, and like I'll give them the like experience to, I'll let them out, so they aren't just there and sitting and there's constant movement on them.
Yeah, I love that. So I love circles in school, and giving kids a different prompt in a circle for them to share how they're feeling, what they're going through, things that they're excited about is always important. So I love that. Good job. What else? It's another way that our
I-
schools can do this. Go ahead.
So my school, we have a lot of diversity, but we don't have a lot of diversity programs, and I feel like maybe increasing those could make a lot of kids feel seen or more comfortable with their identity, and also get them to talk more about their identity by giving them a safe space to do so.
Yeah, I love that. So we talk a lot about the importance of something we call it culturally sustaining pedagogy, but it's helping kids really share their expertise, right? You are experts of your own lives. And when you have an opportunity to talk about your own lives, or when we are able to make teaching relevant to your own lives, you're going to learn more. You're going to feel safer, and you're going to feel better about the environment you're in. So that's great. I love this one. So we've got an opportunity here with Seth. He says, I think my school struggles with educators insulting our intelligence. They make us feel scared to make mistakes. Perhaps to talk with teachers to work these issues out would be best. So we talk a lot about these things with educators. Sometimes it is really important for educators to hear from students though, right? If this is how you're feeling, and especially if this is how you know other students in your school are feeling, it's okay to say, hey, can we talk for a moment? This is what's going on. And I would love to find alternative ways for us to interact with one another so that nobody feels like their intelligence is being insulted. So everybody feels like they belong, right? That's a conversation that all kids can have, adults can have with each other, et cetera. All right. And we encourage you, we empower you to have those conversations. Just the last couple here. I think my school experience could have been enhanced if my classes were more integrated with students around my school and not just my cohort. Okay. Encourage my school to prioritize student mental health and work towards being better at listening to student concerns in general. Yes. So I love that, Trey. One of the things that you are going to have the opportunity to do during this advisory council throughout the year is really select a priority as a group, right? Previous commissioner student advisories have really talked a lot about mental health and how they wanted to prioritize student mental health. So you'll be able to really figure out, like, as a group, what is our priority? What is our focus, right? Do we want to improve mental health? Do we want to improve, do we want to talk about the impact of bullying, social media, any of those things that you really feel like are pervasive issues within your schools? You can actually create campaigns and projects to improve, right? So that's going to be another goal for this group. All right, as I finish up, I just want to thank you for participating today in our Mindful Minute. I, again, want to remind you that empathy is really, really important. Being able to put yourself in the shoes of another is always important. Being able to reach out to others that may be going through a tough time is always important. And I want you to know this. When I was first asked to come to the Kentucky Department of Education, it was completely out of the blue. Right? It was a recruitment effort. Somebody said, hey, I think you'd be great at this job. And I had not previously considered it. In my mind, I started to say things like, oh my gosh, if I'm able to do this, then I'm going to be able to impact, hundreds and hundreds of people, or thousands and thousands of kids. And that was kind of my mindset for the first year or two. But then I had a paradigm shift. Something switched in me, and I realized that wasn't really the best way of approaching my career or life. What I realized is that focusing on individuals one at a time is really a better approach. It's a more meaningful approach. It's a deeper approach as well. So by putting that initial of the student at the beginning in the chat box and really thinking about one way that you can focus on improving them, you'll also be sharing my approach of one at a time. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dr. Sweeney. I'll just say Dr. Sweeney was one of the very first people who welcomed me to KDE, and I still really appreciate that one-on-one, that warm welcome, and that meant a lot when I walked in the door. I'm going to pause here. I think Dr. Glass has joined the call. I know he was having some audio issues. So Dr. Glass, would you like to pop in and say hello? We kind of sped through our welcome and introductions, but I'd like to pause now if you'd want to chime in.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everybody, and appreciated listening in on that last activity. Damien always, Dr. Sweeney, I should say, always does such a great job making sure everybody feels welcomed and part of the circle, and I enjoyed that very much. I've got a little time with you all later on the agenda today, so I'll hold off until then, but just wanted to pop in and say hi, and I'm listening as we move along.
I will thank you. I'll go ahead and move forward. We do have a very packed agenda as this is our first council meeting. Tony, again, is unable to join today, but I will briefly go over kind of a general overview of the council. This is a year-long council, so you'll be meeting August through May. And one thing that we have added to this council that's different from past is we are you all have voted on and elected a new chair and a new vice chair. So as you hopefully can see on your screen, Rayma Dutt, representing DuPont Manual High School, and Vice Chair Bentley White, representing the Kentucky School for the Deaf. You all have voted for them to be chair and vice chair of the council. So I'm going to pause now and let them, if they'd like to just make a few remarks. Again, this is just hot off the press, but that you all have elected them to be your new leadership.
First up, I just want to say thank you all so much for trusting me and voting me as chair. And like with this position this year, I really want to make sure that every single voice is included because we all come from such different geographic regions of Kentucky. And as we know, for education, it's based off your county and how it runs. So like for JCPS, like the issues that affect Jefferson County aren't the issues that affect Eastern and Western Kentucky. So I want to make sure that together as a council, we can collectively work together to see what our state needs help on the most and create a plan of action. So thank you.
Thank you guys for trusting me with the position of vice chair. I would like to reiterate that Kentucky is a large and diverse commonwealth, and people have tons of different backgrounds from all over the place. And I am in a really unique position on this council because my school is a school that has students from here, there, and everywhere. There's a student right now at our school who lives 6 hours away from where I'm at right now. So I feel like it's a good bridge to this is a good place for everyone from all over the Commonwealth to air their concerns about school and find a solution.
Awesome. Thank you, Rayma and Bentley. We at KDE, I know, look forward to working with you in the year ahead, helping build up the Student Advisory Council and the work that you all and goals you have planned. This is another opportunity, I think, just to kind of set up for the year, just reminders about the importance of everyone's voice on this council. And some of the ways that you all are able to share your voice on the council is directly through meeting attendance. So by being here today, by participating, sharing what you all see in your schools and in your circles and sharing that forward. And then also hearing from KDE representatives and sharing that information back into your networks. So one way is to share, is to show up at our meetings. And so just a reminder about the importance of meeting attendance. Every meeting, we will also share an exit slip with you following the meeting. We'll ask for your input about the meeting, things you liked, things that you would like to see in future meetings. And we really take that input and that helps shape our future meetings. A lot of the suggestions and feedback from last year's exit slips have helped shape, for example, adding council leadership. So that input is really important, and we really do factor it in into shaping these as meaningful meeting experiences. And then lastly, if you'd like, and I know Hunter Combs is on the call, he might want to pop in and say about his experience writing for Kentucky Teacher. That's the flagship publication of the Kentucky Department of Education. And if you have a column or an idea or something that you'd like to run as kind of an op-ed space, let us know. Hunter wrote a piece last year, and that was shared and well received in our Kentucky Teacher space. So, excuse me, I think that's another opportunity. Again, just the emphasis here being on how you can share your voice on the council. And then just putting it here for those who maybe are not yet aware, but the KDE Student Advisory Council is present on several social media platforms, and you can follow along and join the conversation and tag at KDE Stu Voice. That's on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. And we encourage you all to share your pictures and story ideas and reshare. Just help us be part of that conversation and elevating student voice. And then also there's a GroupMe communication, that's a chat function that is for just for group members, but the official communication for the council is always going to be sent to your email. Just wanted to make sure that that was clear to you all, that all council communications will go officially to your email accounts. And I think that's it from the kind of overview and just logistics for the council structure for the year ahead. And I will toss to Dr. Byron Darnell, who is presenting on input on Ed Rising and apprenticeship opportunities.
Good morning, awesome people. It's great to see some familiar faces, even if it is through this screen, and certainly excited about new voices coming on to the Student Advisory Council. I guess selfishly, I look forward to being able to converse and interact in person, but this will do for now. For those that have been on the council, I just want to lead some of our new faces with just the level of thankfulness for your participation and willingness to put your voice in the mix. As has been stated, I just couldn't be more proud of the degree to which the Commonwealth is working to elevate student voice. This is your experience. This is your opportunity. These moments that help us as the adults that are no longer the direct recipient of our fine education system. We have space and distance. You all are proximal to this. And so anything that you have to say, in my opinion, is crucially important to anything that any bit of the work that we're doing at a departmental level. So I lead with that. It's great to see you. I hope your school years have kicked off as smoothly as possible, and just excited to see all of the input that you're going to provide across this year. So for me, it's always just a little bit selfish because I'm just curious, you know, kind of what is happening in your area of the world and how you're seeing this. And then naturally, my main focus is on elevating and maintaining and protecting the teaching profession. And so we've had opportunities that have come about in order to promote and offer sort of firsthand experience of getting into the field of education. Educators Rising being one of those primary pathways at the school level. But then there's also been a lot of talk about opportunities for what would be essentially a teacher apprenticeship. So moving more to a model that would mimic other apprentice type careers, meaning spending more extended time or more time, extended time working with a teacher in a classroom while finishing coursework. So I'm just very curious about your all's thoughts along the line of something, you know, the Educators Rising. Some of you all may be very familiar with this. Some of you may see this operating in your schools. And it is a teaching and learning pathway, and you're taking classes that are geared toward advancing into your post-secondary. There are competitions, but it is not a direct line into the classroom like an apprenticeship model would be. So I'm just really curious, kind of your thoughts in terms of advancing out the needs that we know we have in terms of getting talented individuals into classrooms. What would be your sort of initial thoughts on the level of detail that would be involved in an apprenticeship? So I'm just curious. In chat or jump in, whatever's most comfortable. I see a hand. I can't, Jeff.
Yes, I
Sorry.
think I can sort of answer. I can sort of answer some of what you're saying. At least in my school, we have lots of the career technical pathways, but I have not seen our an advising thing working in the same way. But the apprenticeship idea, I think, it clarified to me what you're trying to ask. But the apprenticeship would work as a more direct line from high school student into the teaching pathway. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. And the goal is to kind of mimic, when I guess traditionally when we think of apprenticeships, we think of CTE pathways that are more, you're learning on the job. So you're embedded with, sort of a master of their craft, and you are working side by side with that individual to gain the experience necessary. So it's more of a coaching, mentoring, job embedded pathway that would be quite different than sort of the traditional pathway that we know of, that is the predominant means of becoming a teacher. Does that make sense?
Yes. So what I would say then with that perspective is that it seems to me like a lot of the people that I know who are interested in becoming a teacher want to get access to that sooner and try to engage in it sooner, and are somewhat opposed to the cost and the time of the additional schooling before work, which is obviously necessary for the requirements for teaching. But what you're saying to me seems like a great way to get people in closer. And there is, at least from my limited view in my one school, some demand for that.
No, thank you. Thank you for the feedback. Do you think there would be, so in some ways, you all are probably experiencing this now. There's almost an acceleration of your post-high school experience because you can, on one hand, there are so many opportunities to gain college credit, through AP or dual credit. And in a lot of cases, students are exiting high school, which is wonderful, especially economically speaking. And you're, say, at a sophomore level by the time you hit the ground, should you choose to go the post-secondary route. The apprenticeship would be somewhere along this lines too, because you're accelerating your career by beginning at the high school level, and so you would potentially be very young when you finish, as is the case if you enter college and you have a lot of credits already established. So I'm just curious from where you all stand, how you see that playing out, and not just only from if you choose a teaching route or education as a career, but sort of an advancement of getting so far along at a much younger age than definitely when I was going to school. So I'm just curious how that factors in to you all in this time. I see a couple hands. Sorry, the screen is really small for me here, so I'm not meaning to overlook someone. Let's see. I think I see, is it, yeah, Nicholas, I see a hand raised, and then I'll get to others too.
I'd just like to pop in and mention we have at Paintsville for seniors, because I'm a senior this year, a program for fourth period, which is called Sylvan Lawn. So right now, since we just started yesterday, we're not in the process yet, but what you will do in Sylvan Lawn, you will go out into the community for about an hour each day, that period, and you will try and shadow or have an apprenticeship program with a local business, a hospital, a law office, or something that would give you community service hours while also learning kind of what field you want to go into. As well, we have a new class that was accepted by Morehead State that a teacher in the building, Miss Martin, is teaching, which is Introduction to Education. So you will be able to get that credit through the exams that Morehead will provide to us. And then you will potentially have some of your credits to become a teacher already waived by the time you go into college. And there's a lot of those programs we've seen. We have phlebotomy, CNA, that sort of thing, where you will go into a local hospital or nursing home, get all of your credits ready, and then you will possibly already have a job lined up for you before you even graduate. And that's at least our experience here at Paintsville. I know for bigger districts, there's different opportunities with STEM academies and that sort of thing, but that's what we have at the moment.
That's outstanding and good for Paintsville. There's no doubt about it. Thank you for sharing. Let's see, I have others on here. Let's see, I see Seth in the queue here.
Yeah. So at my school, we only have career pathways in STEM. We only have, and that's about 3 of them for like digital programming. So what I think our school really suffers in that we don't give our students an opportunity to actively participate in the community during the school day. If you want to do it after school, you have to work very hard to earn that opportunity. So introducing more apprenticeships and introducing more career pathways would definitely prepare students better for their lives.
Outstanding. Thank you for chiming in, Seth. And please, if I mispronounce the name, please correct me. Is it Anopa? I think I see.
It's Anopa. Yeah, you got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, no worries. I just want to add input. As a student here in Lexington, we have a lot of different opportunities. Like we have a lot of different science pathways, engineering, and so on and so forth. But I think one thing that we're lacking is like an organized pathway for people who want to go into education. So I definitely think Ed Rising would be very like helpful, especially at giving students the chance to even see what an apprenticeship would be like, to give them like real world class work, to just show them, to make it accessible to everybody would make a big difference in the number of teachers and educators we have here, specifically in Lexington, where we have a very small amount.
Outstanding. And I will just note, if any of you all need any resources or contacts, I'll drop in my email. It is never in a position for you to reach out. That's what we're here for. So please feel free to at any time. Thank you, Nopa. Garla.
So I was wondering if this apprenticeship would be like an earlier form of student teaching, because I know in like a few years ago, I've had a few student teachers, like back before COVID hit, I had a lot more of them than I do now, I think. But I was just wondering how that would play out.
No, that's thanks for the question. And unfortunately, your observation is quite true in most areas across our state. And that is the high concern that we just continue to see a dip of entry and interest into education and teaching. And I could just assure you that from a departmental standpoint and all the wonderful educators I know across Kentucky, the thing that we want the most is to have the most talented people in your schools. You deserve that. Your peers deserve that. And so it is distressing to see, the interest declining. And, some of you have heard me say some things before, but, this is not new. We've seen this over time, but it certainly accelerated quite a bit in the last 3 years. So to your point, yes, it would be certainly an earlier introduction into getting into the classroom. So, I guess accelerated is the best word I can think of at this moment, because you're kind of doing it in real time. There's the learning by doing aspect of anything that, we get into. And so the apprenticeship model would be more along those ideas and an earlier opportunity to begin doing so. So yes, I guess is a more direct response to your question, but excellent points. And I'm sorry that you're seeing the decline as well. Let's see, I have a few more coming through here. Is it Irakiza?
Hi. Yes, that's my last name. My first name is Annette.
I am sorry, it shows very funky on here, so I don't.
You're good. No worries.
Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah, of course. I just wanted to say that my idea is that the apprenticeship is an absolutely great idea. One of my fears at the moment is spending a lot of time on education, spending time and money on taking these classes, taking AP classes, just for me to take a completely different route when I grow up. So definitely having this opportunity to explore your options earlier on would be a great idea. For example, my mom has a major in biochemistry, and she's now a refugee advocate for my county. So just to think all those hours she spent, and then now she's doing something completely different, it would have been great for her to have explored that option earlier on. So I think it's definitely a really good idea.
Outstanding. And wow, that's unbelievable. And thank you for that personal reflection as well. Let's see here do I see Rema and Cameron?
Yeah, it's Rima. So
I'm so ridiculous.
You're okay. So at the school that we attend, it's a magnet school, and it basically prepares you for different pathways into like STEM, journalism, like art and theater, but there's not really anything for the field of education or teaching. And I think it's because a lot of the time that field is portrayed in a negative light, career-wise. And I think in order to just build support and encouragement for people to join the career, we need to offer more elective classes, kind of showing them the positive sides of it. And also just having an opportunity for them to apply their knowledge into that field. And I also think implementing some sort of yearly panel at every school, just highlighting the jobs in education could be super beneficial, because it could expose people to that career.
Outstanding recommendation, and super sad face for not having that in place currently. So good idea. Something to work on for sure. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to run down here and be cognizant of time, but I want you to get your voice in. And this is very non-user friendly as it moves about. And I'm going to really need help, but is it Aliete?
Aliete, you said it right.
Okay, it means a lot, so I'm working hard, but thank you. Yeah, thanks for jumping in.
Oh, thank you. So I was actually going to say that I think that these type of opportunities are really important, because they help you to know what you want to do in the future. And in general, they just give you nice experience. However, in my school, at least, I think they should work a little more in these in the programs, because, for example, the last year I was part of Educare Rising, and I had an amazing experience. However, this year, I think that I won't be able to do it anymore, because I think that for foundings, the school just stopped giving the opportunity of going to several clubs since the last year. They don't really explain you why, and you just there standing in front of them, and you really cannot ask anything. Besides that, from what I hear, this club we were supposed to go to do community services and do way more activities of what we actually did. We only compete and we only had meetings the months that we were going to for the competition. So I think that they should like focus on a little more, not only in the competitions because of course they're important and I learned so much from there. But I feel like if we're going to make a program, it should be full with different activities like community services, meetings, stuff like that. So it was kind of like a comment. Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for being so specific too. That is very helpful. So I think we've got just two more here, and I just again we'll definitely continue, and I'll pick your brain moving forward. But this is extremely helpful in just sort of priming the conversation. Eric. Or I can jump to Reese.
Austin. I think it's Austin.
Oh, Austin. Okay, sorry. It is Austin. That would. There we go. Sorry.
I don't know why they have my middle name as like the first name on here. But yeah, I'm a Austin. I'm also in a magnet school, so we have like the pathways for everything except for teaching. So I would say like the closest kind of apprenticeship is like being an assistant to like a teacher, except you don't really get to like go in depth. You're just helping them with like the everyday things. So I feel like the apprenticeship would help with like trying to influence a lot more people in the school to try and be in the field of education or just in the field of schooling.
Yeah, no, outstanding. And thanks for just a little perspective on what is or is not available where you're attending currently too. Thank you, Austin. And then Reese.
Yeah, so the school that I go to, we have this co-op program that we do where any senior who's wanting to co-op with another business or industry within the area, they can go and spend the first couple of periods that they have at school co-oping with those programs. So anyone who's interested in not necessarily going the post-secondary route, but is wanting to go into some sort of industry, it's a great way for them to get experience in the field and figure out what they're wanting to do with that. But regarding the teaching, we actually just picked up a teaching dual credit pathway here at our school. And so we're now allowing students to come in and take their first intro to teaching is what the class is called. And so it really helps them kind of figure out if they want to go into teaching, gives them a basics of what that would be. But I think a great way to help publicize that and apply that and implement that in the schools across Kentucky is to strengthen the CTSO around that. So I know we have Educators Rising to go along with the education pathway, but to publicize that just a little bit more and have a greater club that supports that CTE pathway kind of helps that out. I see that a lot in the business pathway at our schools because you have like FBLA and DECA that help go alongside the CTE pathway. But to have those clubs and organizations helps kind of bring the learning outside of the classroom and applies that more to the industry and helps people see what they can do with it. And so to publicize a CTSO in the teaching pathway would be very beneficial, I think.
Oh, Reese, that's exciting to hear about the opportunity for the coursework and, finding individuals that are qualified to also teach those courses. It can be a barrier, not just for the educator pathway, but for any pathway. But that's exciting to see. And thank you again. The specific recommendations are really, really helpful. So Well, you all are really remarkable. It's always the best part of a month, week for me in getting to interact with you. Thank you for indulging me in just thinking a little bit about moving into what would be an apprenticeship model. Always available to you, even though we're limited here time-wise, but any feedback that you have is more than welcome. So appreciative. Great to see each and every one of you. Couldn't be more proud of the voices that you carry into this meeting. And Glyptosan, thank you for just the opportunity to interact with our wonderful advisory.
Of course, a lot of input too. Want to chime in and mention in the chats, in the comment section, a lot of really great insights, I think, in perspective also being shared there. So thanks again, everyone, and Dr. Darnell. We'll pause here and again, thanks for everyone for sharing your thoughts on this. It's a continuing conversation and always of interest, again, for the student perspective. So now we're going to queue up Karen Dodd here at KDE. She is the Chief Performance Officer, and she's going to provide an update on Kentucky United We Learn Council.
Thank you, Glyptosan. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you. And like Dr. Darnell, I am going to ask for some participation as well. Congratulations to all of the new members. It's great to see so many of you. And a big congratulations to Rima and Bentley. Rima and Bentley are also on the United We Learn Council. So I have been getting to know them over the last year. And there may be opportunities for others to join this council as well if you're interested. On the next slide, I have a question for you, but I'm going to give you a little bit of background before I ask you to answer. We started the United We Learn Council about a year ago, last November. And at that time, Chair Lou Young, she was the chair of the Kentucky Board of Education. She's now the vice chair, but at that time she was chair, and she challenged the council to come up with a moonshot for education in Kentucky. And so my question to you is going to be, if you could define Kentucky's moonshot, what would it be? But let me give you a little background first. You can go on to the next slide and tell you a little bit about what the council is all about. We started off with about 75 members. We're around 72 right now. Audrey Gilbert, who is a former council member, student council member, is our chair of the council. And Penny Christensen, who is a family advocate, is our council vice chair. The council is made up of 3 committees. We have the Vibrant Learning Experiences Committee. They really focus on what would a rich school experience look like for students. We have another committee, the Accelerating Innovation, especially as it pertains to accountability. And as it states, they are very focused on redefining what accountability looks like. A lot of what we heard is that kids, parents, teachers don't want kids to be evaluated by just one test. So whether that's the K-Prep or the ACT, a person is much more than that one score that's taken once a day. So how do we redefine accountability moving forward? And then the other committee is Building a Bold New Future with Communities. And this is really about involving families, involving other community members into education. What is it that business leaders are looking for when it comes to a graduate out of high school? What is it that the post-secondary institutions are really looking for in order to have you come into their institution without taking any remedial work? Things like that. Now, we got to this point because about, 3 years ago, when Dr. Glass started here, we sent out a survey asking people, what are we doing well when it comes to education? What are we not doing so well? What could we do differently? What should we stop doing? What should we start doing? we followed that up with a listening tour. Dr. Glass did about 12 sessions where we invited anyone and everyone in Kentucky to participate, and had a set of questions that were asked. They were called empathy interviews, again, to try to get to what is it that Kentuckians are experiencing when it comes to education. At the end of that, we formed a coalition, and that coalition looked at all of the data, all of the information that was collected from the survey, from all of those interviews during the listening tour, and they put together a report. That was the Kentucky United We Learn report. And they had 10 themes in there, and you can still get to that report if you go to the Kentucky Department of Education. Up in the right-hand corner of our webpage, you'll see United We Learn. You can click on there and very easily get to that report. But the council was then developed to figure out how we could move forward in implementing the ideas in that report. And it was really boiled down, those 10 themes were boiled down to these 3 things that you see on your screen: the vibrant learning experiences, accelerating innovation, and building a bold new future. And so the challenge that we are still facing is, what is that moonshot? So yes, we have these 3 big ideas, but what does that really mean for the council? What is their takeaway? We have a grant that is over 4 years for this group to meet on a regular basis and come up with something that they will deliver that really we want to change education in Kentucky. You can go on to the next slide. So some of the things that the council is doing right now, we have a survey out to our council members asking them to recommit for another year, because we're just about at that 1 year mark. We're also asking them, what can we improve? So as they have been in this process with us for this a year now, what are we doing well as a council, and what can we improve as a council? We're also working on our next convening. So November 2nd and 3rd, all these council members are going to be coming here to Frankfort. And the main thing that we want to do is nail down that moonshot. What is it as a council that we are trying to achieve? And then they're going to work for those 2 days to determine what each of their committees are responsible for when it comes to that moonshot. And we're also going to talk about what are the indicators that tell us if the work is actually happening. So over the next 3 years and beyond, how will those council members be able to hold KDE responsible for taking this work forward? You can go on to the next slide. We are also in the process, well, actually we have done this. We've drafted 2 processes. One is a committee level, one is a council level process that just talks about how the council works in conjunction with the Department of Education, the Board of Education, legislators, and these can both of these, I believe, can be found out on that same web page. If you click on the United We Learn on our website, you can get to these as well. But it's just it's in depth. You may not have any interest in looking at that, but if you are, it's out there. And we also may be looking for more members at some point. Right now, that survey that's out there, depending on how many people recommit, and the makeup of those people. It's really important to us that we have a diverse group in this council. So if we see that our numbers are off, whether it be geographically, because we want members from all across the state, whether it's by race or ethnicity, whatever. We're also looking for a good mix of students versus parents, educators, post-secondary educators, community members, legislators. we really want a mix of all those types of folks so that we can say that we are really hearing the voices of folks throughout Kentucky. So I'm going to put in the chat just a little, not really a survey. It's really, I just want you guys to let me know what you would choose as a moonshot. But I want you to think about it for a minute, and I'd love to hear some of you. I want to capture it in this document because I want to be able to take it back to the council members in November and give them some examples of what students are saying they would like to see as the moonshot for Kentucky. So think of this as like a vision. If education could be anything, what would you want it to look like? So give that a thought, and then if you want to raise your hand or put something in the chat, and then at some point I would like you to go into that document and put your moonshot in there as well. Yes, Garla. Or is it Manas? I'm going to do the same thing Dr. Byron did. Yes.
I think my biggest hope for education would be like to have students be able to take like anything they want, like any class, make any club they want without any like fear. Because I know like in Frankfurt, our schools are like relatively on the small side. So we don't have a ton of opportunities. Like we have a decent amount, but there's a lot of things that I feel like we're missing out on. So my biggest hope would be like just be able to do what you want. Because I know we're missing a lot of classes, and we're missing like a lot of clubs that other schools have. So just to like be able to create what you want to do instead of being like restricted to like some group or like some course load. I think that's be a really big step forward.
Great. Thank you. Other thoughts? Shraman? Or is it, did I say that right?
Yeah, you said it right.
Great.
So I think my hope would be that like learning is like would be for the students. So instead of like the students being engaged to like the content being taught, the learning would be kind of tuned so that would be like fun and engaging for the students. And that could be achieved like through kind of like creating like a personalization for each student. And of course, this is like a long shot. Like that would be like really hard to achieve. But I think one of the issues I see is that like students like are just like not engaged with like the learning content and material, and it's not like a fault of their own, because the content is taught in a way that's not really engaging and fun. So my hope would be that kind of like like in the future we could kind of shift how we teach itself so it's more engaging and fun for everyone.
Thank you. Yes, we've heard that a lot, especially the whole engagement piece. So I hear you, Peter.
Yes, I think my vision for education would be allowing true exploration at our educational level, at high school level, before we get to college. That you would the vision of education would be that each person gets to learn and truly explore what is interesting to them and what might not be interesting to them, but give them a perspective on everything and give a wide range of knowledge, and understanding of who you are and who you want to become.
Thank you, Peter. Hanette?
Hi. My idea kind of went along with what the person before said. I think he made a really good point of how classrooms and instruction are not really inclusive. And I think that has a lot to do with life after post-COVID and just everything we went through during COVID. It seems like classrooms are way too similar to how it was when we were online. Using things like Google Classroom is very efficient and helpful, but I feel like that is being overused. And instead of doing interactive activities, teachers are using more of like Google Docs and online resources, which is good, but is not always really like inclusive and getting everybody to really voice their opinion in the classroom.
I hear you. Thank you. Austin.
I feel like going back to like the inclusivity topic, I feel like kind of equal ACT and like the SAT prep for all the students is kind of like lacking within majority of school districts, because I know within ours, it's like you kind of gotta pay because schools don't really give a bunch of ACT and like SAT prep. So it's like the higher you pay, it's like the better the prep, and which could mean like the better the score. So and that is kind of like a little biased against like some of the low the income students. So I feel like if we gave like the equal opportunity ACT and the SAT prep to like all of the students, I feel like it would raise some of the scores, and that means that college like acceptances will probably be higher.
Yeah, really good point. Thank you, Austin. Is it Yannis?
I don't know if you meant to say Janice, Alieta Janice Medina. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Well, I would love to be a part of a school that has a strong informative system, because for example, I'm part of different extracurricular activities, and the majority of them, well, all of them is because either a teacher have told me something, or I have seen any like something online, and I ask about like, do we have in the school? However, once I'm talking with my friends and being like, yo, I got accepted into this program, or I'm really excited about it, they usually tell me, what program? I have no idea that even exists. And we even have the same teachers. So I would love to be part of a system where they actually tell and give the same opportunities to everyone, because I know amazing people that will be like really will do an amazing job in similar programs that I'm in, but because the teachers do not tell them, or they just are not aware of them, they just cannot be part of them. So that I think that we should work a little more on that, in the inclusivity. And if you're going to just tell something a great opportunity, just say it to the whole class. It was kind of like the point. Thank you.
Yes, point taken. Thank you. Let's go to Seth.
I always felt like we should have more freedom to explore ourselves in school in terms of what we want to do, but instead of just being left to our own devices and figure it out, just like Google search, I think we should have more in-depth discussions in class, connecting our careers to the curriculum, or opportunities to explore the community around us and see what's there, because there's so much in every city that students just don't get to see because they're trapped in the building all day and they're learning calculus, but they're not getting what they need to pursue a life outside of school.
Yeah, so I'm hearing a lot about that vibrant learning experience for engagement, but you're also hitting on the community that we are talking about. That's one of our three big ideas there. So yeah, thank you so much. Let's go to Ava.
Yes, at least in my school district, the biggest
we have an
problem
earthquake
with like
right
the
now. I'm sorry.
inclusive.
Somebody wasn't muted. I think we're okay now.
The big problem with like inclusivity is like you get identified as one of the smart kids like in first grade, and so from that point you're set on track to take AP classes, take multiple year advanced classes, whereas other kids who weren't identified then but are just as intelligent, they don't get those resources, and they spend their whole K through 12 experience without those resources simply because they weren't identified from the one test that we took 1st through 3rd grade.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Let's see. And I'm going to say this wrong again. I know Dr. Barnell said it. Is it ANOPA?
Yeah, you said it right.
Okay, good.
So I just wanted to bring out, like, as a student that has like lived in a low income area and then has moved to a higher income area, I have like experienced kind of like the difference in equity and resources that both areas are able to have. And I feel like that's just here in Lexington with a city that's so big. I wonder how it is all over Kentucky with different income areas around there. So like with education now, I'd like it to be a little bit more accessible and equitable for all areas because once I had moved, it became like resources were abundant. And I feel like that would be really helpful for everybody.
Yeah, thank you for that. Reese.
Yeah, so I think that from what I hear, a lot of students oftentimes struggle with a classroom being engaging or being involved with the content because it may not be going to enough depth as they want to, or may not appeal to their interests, or it's too focused on simply passing a test rather than studying the content. I think there's a lot of limitations there, but oftentimes I think now, specifically in today's society, the best way to get students engaged is to engage them with themselves and with others like them. And so maybe one of the best ways is to provide a median or an avenue for students to come together across the state and share resources or opportunities that they've had, experiences that they've had, so that there's this platform of all of these different things that they've applied for, tips and tricks on classes, any content that they've learned. That way that the students can be engaged through the other students across Kentucky rather than simply trying to fix necessarily just the classroom environment, but providing something beyond the classroom that really gets people more involved with the interests they have.
That's
and I
really
think that, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's really interesting. You know, we do that a lot for teachers, the professional learning collaboratives and things. But it sounds like you're suggesting something like that for the students. So those who are learning, how do we do kind of the same thing that the teachers are doing?
Right, exactly. And I have kind of worked on this idea for a little bit and talked to people within my school. And we've kind of started up a little bit of a student organization here just in my school, but it's not really as effective until you get it across the whole state and get more perspectives and more students involved in it, because it really is just that collaboration. Because for the same reason that teachers need a collaboration median of how do we best teach students, students need a collaboration median of how do I find the person that I want to get to.
I love that. I would love to talk with you more about that. So shoot me an email. Let's see. Okay, Justin.
Hello. So I have more of an inside perspective rather than, because if you don't know, one of the standing committees was Vibrant Learning, and I chair that committee. So my kind of vision, which I'm sure we'll get into this later as well, but is Portrait of a Learner. I don't know if you want to drop that in the chat if everybody knows about that, but it has competencies based on academics, soft skills, community skills, all these things that everybody's talking about. You know, we want to be ready for life outside of high school. We want to be ready for life out of high school, but we still need to have academic accountability in high school to make sure we're learning the things we need to learn. So my vision for education would be for, graduation and assessment and accountability requirements to be based more around Portrait of a Learner than they are just you need to know this subject, and this subject, and you're good to go. So, for example, student learning defenses, where students do projects, and then these are real life projects, where I went to Marshall County and saw one of them, and they were building houses in Minecraft actually, but they were using math, and they were making blueprints and all these kind of things, and contractors were coming in, and they were actually going to build these houses because Marshall County got hit by the December 2021 tornado. So they were going to build these houses to help rebuild. And so those kids got a real life experience. They learned math, they got to present in front of the public, and they were helping their community. So they hit almost every competency on Portrait of a Learner, and yet still they have to take the state assessment at the end of the year. And this school could be, I think when I talked to the assistant principal, they were ranked low. I don't know what the color scheme anymore is, but they weren't, in a high performing school on their assessment and accountability. But their kids are learning things that are going to be extremely valuable. And these kids are in elementary school. I only saw kindergarten through 3rd grade student learning defenses. So things like that are things that are going to boost the education system, and really what Vibrant Learning Experiences is looking at as a committee as well.
Thank you, Justin. And yes, I went ahead and put the Portrait of a Learner in the chat. So if anybody's interested in seeing more about that, feel free to go there. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I love how participatory this council is. You guys are great. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and put the link again for defining your moonshot into the chat. So if you would, when you get a chance, if you haven't already, go ahead and put your thoughts in there, and I will make sure that it goes to the council, and Ryman and Bentley will hold me to that. All right, thanks everyone.
All right, Karen, do you want me to do the next slide?
Oh, did I have more on there? Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so just to let you all know that we do have a monthly newsletter. You can email me or just put something in the chat, or we'll make sure that we get you signed up if you're interested in reading that newsletter on a monthly basis. And there's a link to the Kentucky United We Learn page. Like I said, if you go to our homepage, click on United We Learn, you'll be able to get to it very easily. And I think that's it. Yeah, this is just a reminder for the moonshot again. So click on that when you have a minute. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And next we had queued up Dr. Glass and RJ Osborne, who's a member of our Commissioner Student Advisory Council, in addition to being a non-voting member of the Kentucky Board of Education. So Dr. Glass, also followed by a conversation directly with the commissioner. So I will turn over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jones, and good morning again, everyone. I've enjoyed the conversation so far. I wonder if we could start with having RJ introduce himself and talk some about how his role on the State Board of Education is going and some of the perceptions that he's had and the role that he serves on the board. RJ might also be able to tell about his first meeting. He was actually at the board retreat for 2 days that was at Dale Hollow Lake State Park. So he participated in that, and then they've had a couple of special meetings, and we'll continue to have those. But RJ, are you on and can tell a little bit about your experiences on the board so far?
Commissioner, I'm looking at the roster and I'm not sure that I see him on.
Okay. Well, we'll have him catch up with you all later. RJ will be important to connect with this group because he does represent the voices of students on the Board of Education. And so his participation and connection with this group is, I think, going to be really important because it's a way for all of you to provide advice and direction to him on what priorities you have for the things that the board is considering. Kentucky's one of a few states in the country that have a student representative, and Kentucky has a teacher representative. Those were added by the Board of Education a few years ago, and then there was a redesign of the Board of Education that added them by state law. law now going forward. They are non-voting members, but they are treated as co-equals on everything else on the board. So when discussion happens, as the board is considering what decisions they're going to make in terms of state regulations or any other policy issues that come before the State Board of Education, they do stop and listen to what the student perspective is and what the teacher perspective is. And those have become really important voices for the rest of our board members, informing them on the right decisions to make. I want to express my thanks to the returning members of this council for all that you have provided to me and the experiences and connections that I've been able to make with you over these past 3 years as commissioner. This has been one of the delights in this job, is getting to know each of you and work with all of you. And I feel like this council, this Student Advisory Council, has made a real impact in supporting me as commissioner, helping guide the Department of Education, making decisions that are in the best interest of students. And you've made an impact on the policy front with the positions that you've taken and the statements that you've made. And so I think that this has been a real effective group. So thank you and good work to all of the returning members. And then for those new members coming on, congratulations. This is really, as I mentioned, an impactful group that does have an effect on education policy decisions that the department makes, that the board makes, and their efforts to influence the legislature on decisions that they make as well. So keep up that tradition. It's been really positive, really powerful, and really strong. It's something that we're very proud of in Kentucky, to have such an active, engaged, and mobilized student advisory council. So keep up that great work. Also, congratulations to Rima and Bentley. It's been wonderful getting to know you, both of you, and see the work that you've done. And it's they have selected, your peers have selected 2 wonderful people to be co-chairs of this group, and I appreciate the engagement that both of you have had. Shifting gears, you may have heard that I'm planning on transitioning out of this role. I have about a month left as Kentucky's Commissioner of Education. It's been a real delight and honor to do this work for the past 3 years. I have loved every minute of it, even the hard times, and I've especially loved getting to work with and know all of you. Some of the meetings that the State Board is having now are around that transition, and right now my work is really to continue the day-to-day functions of the job. Any decisions that need to be made, I continue to make and stay engaged. But also I want to work and support the Board of Education on making a transition to what will be an interim commissioner, and then going into a national search for a new commissioner to support them in making that transition as smooth as possible. So I hope that we could have a conversation around that transition and put together a list of qualities that you would like to see in a new commissioner of education, something that we can provide to the state board. I know that they're interested in your feedback. So from a student perspective, what are some qualities that you'd like to see in the next commissioner? And then a related question to that, what are some priorities that from, again, the student perspective, you'd like to put on a new commissioner's plate as they get started? So what are some things you want them focused on and thinking about? Karen's work in that previous session around the Kentucky United We Learn Council and the priorities that you raised there may form the basis of some of these things, but we want them, I think, to be relatively short term. So something in kind of the first year of someone's term as commissioner, what are some things that you want them focused on? So I'm going to pause for just a second, and we'll break these 2 questions down. One, I want you to think about some of the criteria that you'd like to see in new commissioners. So I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. And then I'd like for you to put those in the chat, and then we're going to dialogue that a little bit. And Glyptosan, if we could collect that, I don't know if the best way to do that is to just grab the chat. Maybe that's the best way to go about it. And so we can have this list of priorities or qualifications that we can provide to the state board members. But let's do this. Let's process for 1 minute, and then I will announce to put them in the chat for another minute, and then we'll dialogue. So let's take that processing time right now. Okay, and if you've finished processing, go ahead and type into the chat. I see that Seth has gone ahead and gotten us started. Thank you, Seth. That's a great starting set. Excellent. I see these coming in, and please keep them coming. We'll collect all these and make sure that the state board gets them. I'll read out a few, or read out them as they come in order. Seth said, I'd like the new commissioner to actively listen to students' needs, and I'd like them to be dedicated to the safety of Kentucky families. I think they should prioritize the career readiness and safety of students. Excellent. BJ says, knowledgeable, caring, collaborative, good speaker. I want the commissioner to make sure that all students feel valued and heard. Thank you. Bentley said, I'd like the new commissioner to be open to exploring new avenues and listening to the needs and wants of students, faculty, staff, communities, families, etc. Education is such a group effort and should be managed as such. Hunter said, I'd like for the new commissioner to have a commitment to including student voice in all that they do. Justin said, I think it's very important for the new commissioner to not have a political bias towards the education system. We need someone who truly has the best interest of students and educators at heart. Gabriella said, I'd like the new commissioner to be receptive to everyone's thoughts and focus on the main aspects of things. Constance said, I think it's very important for the next commissioner of education to be the kind of person who can work with everyone. There are so many diverse types of learners across the Commonwealth. It takes an army to educate the next generation, and the general of that army needs to care about and listen to each and every one of the troop members. Owen said, I think a good quality for the new commissioner is to be ambitious. I'd like to see a commissioner that isn't afraid of unnecessary barriers and works to bring equitable and enriching education to students in Kentucky. Nicholas said, I love to see an interim or new commissioner exhibit the same passion that Dr. Glass has made on including all students' perspectives, experiences, and their difficulties, regardless of their identity or background, to ensure that no child is left feeling unheard, unseen, or unrepresented. And thank you, Nicholas. And Honette says, good morals, experience in education, transparent in his or her action. Owen said, I believe the next commissioner should persistently pursue the educational needs of students and be dedicated to the consideration of all of the viewpoints regarding safety in various forms of instruction. Carr said, I'd like the new commissioner to be open-minded. Sharman said, open-minded on different ideas and initiatives. Joshua said, I'd like the new commissioner to make sure that career exploration is available to most students. In this way, students become even more invested in their work because they're able to explore a future in their career interest. Trey said, I'd like the new commissioner to place a lot of value on the needs of students and teachers rather than focusing more on the business side of things. Although that's important, if they're not focused on students and teachers, it will not work. Daniel said, I think it would be great for the new commissioner to be a great communicator that will listen to and be willing to listen to anyone and be willing to speak up to them. Rayma and Cameron said integrity, experience, open-minded, collaborative, familiarity with the education system in Kentucky. Thank you. Let's see. Garla said, I would like a commissioner that actively seeks out the opinions of both students and teachers across Kentucky. I'd also like them to be approachable and open to collecting ideas to improve the education system. You all have been great on these. It's a tremendous list that the board is really going to appreciate. Reese said, I believe the new commissioner should be dedicated to the engagement and involvement of students as they attempt to define their paths. I believe open-mindedness and strategic ambition are pertinent in this role. Danica said, I'd love the new commissioner to value student voice and have an experience in education and collaboration. Justin says, I would like the new commissioner to be very involved and active so that people are aware and there's someone willing to listen and hear those voices and concerns. Peter said, one of my qualification suggestions is that the new commissioner to have experience working in a state similar to Kentucky, both demographically and organizationally throughout the education system. Seth weighs in again. I'd appreciate that a commissioner took a holistic approach and focused on education as a whole. And Anopa says, understanding, caring, hardworking, and open-minded. As a new commissioner, it's important to be open-minded and willing to work with people from all walks of life. Thank you, students. This is a wonderful list. So we'll compile those. Glyptosan, are we able to extract the chat from this and put it together in a document for the state board?
Yes, I've actually just compiled it in a Google Doc in case I can share the link here in case you all would like to continue to add thoughts, if that works, Commissioner.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much for doing that. And I have a weekly update to the state board, and they'll be the ones making this determination. So we will send that over to them. If there's anyone who'd like to come on at this point and just put voice to their suggestions for new commissioner, now we'll take the time to do that. I did read all of the comments that were there, and they were fantastic. Thank you for doing that. But if anyone just has anything they'd like to add by coming on screen and speaking, please do it now. Thank you, Nicholas. Go right ahead.
Good morning, Commissioner. It's a good day, I think, for the group to meet. The hope that I would instill in the new commissioner or interim, however the position will be filled, if that they and all of their advisors and staff would care to look at, really the schools that have had to rebuild, especially here in Eastern Kentucky and in Western Kentucky with tornadoes and schools that's really had to not only fight some of the regular issues you see facing education, but from starting from quite literally the ground up, and see really how they could be assisted in getting back, whether to normal or to a new normal.
Excellent. Thank you, Nicholas. So I think we can add that Glyptosan, just putting in supporting school districts who have experienced disaster and recovery from that. And Austin, go right ahead.
I just want someone that is unbiased, I guess. Like they think about like all the schools and not just like the ones that would outperform the best. And I like the classroom because on some moments it's the schools that maybe aren't as high performing that have the most potential. So I feel like the new commissioner just has to look at all of the schools.
Yeah, someone who's supportive of all schools, regardless of their current performance level, and recognizes the potential that they all have. Excellent, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the second question that I posed for you. We'll go through a similar process where I'll give you a chance to think, then you'll have a chance to write. We'll process through those and then just have a discussion about them. So this next question, and again, I think our process, the way it's shaping up, is I'll be the commissioner through the end of next month. So my last day will be September 29th. There will be an interim commissioner that will be appointed by the board sometime in September. The interim will serve while the board runs a search process, and they'll likely hire a national search firm, kind of a headhunter firm, to go and find candidates and help them screen the candidates. That will take several months, that process of running a search and making a decision. So once the Board of Education makes a determination in that search, a new step in Kentucky is that commissioner candidate now has to go before the state Senate for conference confirmation from the state Senate. So that's a new step that was put into law during the last legislative session. And so it's something that the board is also going to need to consider as they hire someone. Can that person also be confirmed by the state Senate? So for the second question, it is, what are the priorities that you'd like to have the new commissioner focus on in their first year? So I'll say that again. What are the priorities you'd like to have the new commissioner focus on in their first year? You may have raised some of those in response to the last question. You may have raised some of those up when it came to your discussion with Karen Dodd about the United We Learn Council. I'll put that in the chat again for you to review, and I'll give you a minute to think, and then we'll do some writing. So think about that right now. What are the priorities that you'd like for the new commissioner to focus on in their first year? Okay, let's take about 15 more seconds, or just go ahead and start writing into the chat. What are those 1, 2, 3 top priorities? So keep it pretty tight. Great. So I can see these coming in. Please continue to finish your thoughts in the chat. We had a couple of them come in talking about student voice. So there's a great start. Owen said, I'd like to see the new commissioner take action in the realm of expanding opportunities to all students. Really, Owen's talking about the balance is tilted toward classes like AP, and like to see the commissioner go about solving those sorts of problems. Honette said, prioritize diverse feedback so that all cultures, backgrounds, and races are represented. Trey said, I'd like to see the new commissioner focus on equal access to education. Hunter said the teacher retention problem is ravaging the Commonwealth. That's certainly something that I think our education leaders in the state would raise up as well, Hunter. Justin said, I'd like to see the new commissioner focus on supporting the Cool Council in everything they do. Also like to see new commissioner make an effort to visit or contact schools from across the state. Gabriella said, like the commissioner to ensure that all schools are being heard no matter how small. So we heard that priority before as well. Manna said, I'd like them to prioritize taking the opinions of others into account, providing students with more opportunities. Thank you. Owen said, I believe that the next commissioner should prioritize in expanding the availability of career pathways in schools and the presence of foreign language in middle and elementary schools. Thank you. Sharman said, making learning more equitable, accessible, and inclusive, making student voice heard. Rima and Cameron said, repairing and rebuilding schools affected by disaster. So that touches on something raised previously too. Implementing more student voice. So that's a theme coming up, and prioritizing educational equity. Constance said, as someone from Eastern Kentucky, I feel it's important the next commissioner ensure that all parts of the Commonwealth have equitable access to resources and programs. Thank you. Joshua said, I'd like the new commissioner to prioritize obtaining feedback from students. So we hear that a lot. Again, Daniel has student voice, most important. Helen said one of the main priorities is focusing on bring awareness to student mental health. So there's a new priority. Ian says, hope the new commissioner will take action on student voice. So there, that is a theme recurring many times. Peter said, focus on the context of the education system in Kentucky. While I'm not opposed to new ideas or innovation, I believe the new commissioner should take some time to understand the landscape before making any large changes. Great. And Nicholas says, prioritize student voice, student retention, better resources, ensure the arts and extracurriculars are given representation and resources. Danica says, student voice and allowing this council to provide feedback. Thank you. Eliette says some of the priorities the commissioner should focus on is about goals from the last year. I think it's important to keep up with the projects that may not have had desired results. Maybe new students see other solutions. Listens to the students from every background and culture. Jocelyn said, I hope the new commissioner would prioritize student voice again. Seth says, encouragement for students who are not currently in advanced classes to pursue excellence. Prioritize getting the same materials for all schools and teacher retention. Anopa says some issues is the rising lack of certified teachers. So we get that retention issue, retainment of teachers. The commissioner should make an effort to get perspectives from many different social groups. So we've heard that several times. VJ said, I'd like the commissioner to be a person that educators and students can rely on as a person to go to, as the chief learner. They need to be the image of education and help promote whatever is best for students in the Commonwealth. And Reese says, three things: familiarize himself with the department and the responsibilities of role, revitalize education standards to focus on modern engagement of students in the industry and post-secondary education, and third, expand opportunities in CTE pathways for students. So this is a great list of priorities. There certainly are some themes that emerged through that exercise, but I'll pause here and see if anyone would like to come on and just has something that they'd like to say to the group. Okay, I think we have surfaced everything in the chat then. This may be the last Student Advisory Council meeting that I have with you. So again, I'll just say it's been an incredible honor and delight serving as your Commissioner of Education. It's been a real lifelong aspiration of mine to get to serve in this role. So it's been an incredible honor to work in my home state, a state that gave so much to me. I'll be transitioning to be the Associate Vice President of Teaching and Learning at Western Michigan University. So I haven't had the chance to work in higher education in my life. So I'm looking forward to that experience. For the next year, our family's going to stay in Kentucky. Our kids are in great schools here in Fayette County, and my wife works as a teacher here, so we don't want to disrupt them. So I'll be doing the drive back and forth, and we'll sort of reassess in the spring and see how things go. So those are my next steps. But again, it's been an incredible honor. I've delighted in getting to know and work with all of you. Wish the new members of this group the best. I'm sure that the board will select someone who's an incredible talent and very passionate about supporting students in Kentucky. I think what you've put together, both as criteria and a list of priorities for the next commissioner, are right on target for what the board should be looking for in terms of next candidate and what that person should be focused on as they get started. With that, Glyptis, I'll turn things back over to you for the next parts of the agenda.
All right. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to drop again in the chat. I have compiled all of your feedback on both of these questions the Commissioner just shared directly into this Word document. Please continue to add your thoughts to both of the questions there. And as the Commissioner noted, that will be shared forward to the board directly. So thank you, Commissioner, for your remarks and your work with the council. And I will transition over. Typically in meetings for the student advisory, Tony always provides things of interest for high school students, both for those on the council and then also out in your own networks. So we have just a few items we'd like to bring to your attention, but we encourage you to look at the Kentucky Teacher. That's our flagship publication, but where we regularly list opportunities focused on student opportunities. And the first one I really want to bring to your attention, because as a member of the Commissioner Student Advisory, you all are you all fulfill the criteria as long as you're a junior or a senior in terms of the service component associated with the U.S. Senate Youth Program. That is an initiative, a program that the Kentucky Department of Education oversees the selection of 2 students who represent Kentucky, and they'll be selected as delegates to attend a week-long study of the U.S. government. So each delegate will receive a $10,000 college scholarship, and in addition to being able to go to DC for a week. I think it's an incredible opportunity and program. So I do want you to note that there is an application. I encourage you, if you're interested, to go to the associated link on the slide here and find out more information. Complete the application. The due date is October 2. Another highlight, which was big news out in Wolfe County, want to give a shout out. Wolfe County got the state's first electric school bus on August 7. They had a celebration. This is part of an effort funded by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Clean School Bus program, and about 60 electric school buses are on order for 10 Kentucky school districts this year. This was a big news highlight earlier this month, and you can read more about this. Again, this is just sharing out good news and big news out from across the state. Something of interest, particularly for any art students in high school, the Transportation Cabinet, Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has sponsored a Paint the Plow event to promote safe winter driving. And this is a first statewide initiative like this, and students are encouraged to paint snowplow blades. And there's a limited number of snowplows available, but this might be something of interest for art programs or art students, and to really bring your community together as an initiative to promote safety. Additional information and the number of associated snow blades is available on Kentucky Teacher. And then another highlight that might be of interest for school districts in your networks is that the New Hampshire Department of Education is encouraging schools nationwide to participate in holiday cards for our military challenge. And that's to collect and create holiday cards that will be sent to soldiers overseas. And if that's something of interest, there's more information on Kentucky Teacher. The deadline to submit the cards is November 15. So now we're going to transition over and give you members an opportunity to share any announcements or news out in your neck of the woods that might be of interest for the council here, or to share with those on the call. So this is just a few minutes before we wrap up to share any notable events or things of highlight, again, that might have some statewide interest for students. So I'll pause here and let you feel free to unmute or also to share in the chat. And I'll call on Nicholas, who I think might have a couple of announcements. Thanks, Nicholas.
Yes, I wanted to just give a recap on the Kentucky's KDE Council for Accountability and Standard Setting. That is a committee that have tried for the past 3 years to find a new metric on state testing. And I know Justin had mentioned earlier he wasn't sure of the color coding that the state goes by and all of the verbiage that we try to categorize schools in depending on how they're performing. So what we tried to do, and I had the rundown by this by Rhonda Sims, who is the chairwoman for the committee. In 2020, when Commissioner Glass came on, they asked for the state to find a new metric for state testing. Well, COVID happened. So there was, I believe, up until last year, this was the first year where we could get actual data of students having a state assessment in school. So they asked me and all students across the state to apply to be a lone representative. So I'm the only student on the council with a bunch of superintendents, teachers, other people that have worked with the department before to try and find a way to make state testing a little more easier to understand for educators, students, parents, the whole nine of a school community. And we met in June in Frankfurt for 2 days, and in September on the 13th, 14th, and 15th, we will meet again to go through all of the numbers and kind of the specifics of the program. But in June, we kind of tried to find a way to write it all down, tried to find the vocabulary, the verbiage. But in September, we will try and lock down what number does a kid score to be a novice or proficient or distinguished, and try and make sure that finally, after 3 years, we can have a new metric for state testing. So that is what I've been doing on the Accountability and Standard Setting Committee, but we will be coming back in, I believe, 2.5 weeks. So I look forward to it, and after that, I will hope to update you on how it goes.
Thanks, Nicholas, for serving as a student representative, and then also for sharing that update. And yes, I think look forward to hearing more about the work there. Seth.
Yeah, I wanted to announce that my school and I think several other schools in my city have managed to provide free lunch and breakfast to all students every day. Then also, I'm in Jefferson County. We recently got over the bus crisis. So I just wanted to comment on that. I hope everybody else never gets in that similar situation of the buses. Currently, our county has gotten over that now. But yeah, I just thought I'd announce that.
Thanks, Seth. Great news all around. And yes, I do want to make sure we announce, again, we hope everyone's off to a great start to the school year. Thanks, Seth, for sharing that. Looks like I have Aliete and then India.
Can I go first?
Yes, please do.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to say that I'm really excited because since the last year, I've been working on a project to add 88 lunch tables to my lunchroom, to the cafeteria. Basically, 88 lunch tables are tables that have a free spot, so allow people in wheelchair to actually sit in the table instead of like at the edge of the table. And it's been something that I've been working since the last year, as I said, and I'm currently waiting for the response of the bookkeeper of the school to see if we can fill out the grant and have a meeting with my principal. And I'm just really excited because it was kind of like a hard process where I sent a lot of email, I was reflected. So I'm really excited. I think that maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to have a meeting and set up everything and actually wait to receive the money of the grant. And I'm just really excited. I think it's a really important step because we do not have any ADL staff in the school, in any place. So I think just like an important step. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And India.
I just wanted to say that earlier this month, the Craft Academy of Excellence in Science and Mathematics admitted its largest class of over 120 students, and I'm just very grateful to be a part of that class. We have already broken that record for our school. So I'm very excited to see how me and my class will do as we continue on our next 2 years.
Thanks for sharing that. And yes, we look forward to hearing more news and share outs from students at future meetings. And we encourage you. Got another one from Honette.
Yeah, sorry, mine was a little bit delayed. I just wanted to share that my school recently started a new cell phone policy, and apparently it's been a thing in other schools, but we just now got it, and it's to where you can only use your phone in between classes or at lunch. And at first there was like a lot of negativity about it, and everybody was complaining, like everybody's like, I want my phone. But I've seen a big change in like the dynamic of the school. And now like students are actually talking to each other instead of sitting there on their phones. And like it just seems like a big change. So maybe something like that going forward could be something we could consider. But definitely right off the get-go, it was really rough, like having students adjust to it and get used to it. But I've definitely seen a positive change for the better ever since we started.
Thanks for sharing that about the cell phone policy. Are there any other student announcements, again, for the whole council? And if not, I will just jump forward and point out our next meeting. I'm not sure if the slide is still sharing or if it's still visible, but the next meeting is in person. So that will be at the Kentucky Department of Education. The address is on the slide, but that'll be in person starting at 9 a.m. and includes lunch and ending at about 1 p.m. Eastern time. And so we encourage and we look forward to seeing hopefully all members in person at the Sauer Building. And again, I want to say thank you to everyone, both our presenters, Commissioner Glass, Deputy Commissioner Dr. Thomas Woods Tucker was on the call, Dr. Darnell, Karen Dodd, all of our presenters today, and then also you, the students, for providing your feedback. I think you've heard, but we really prioritize student input and perspective here. And really appreciate you all sharing your thoughts and perspectives of the networks you represent. And we encourage you to share that in our meetings moving forward. Also, don't want to forget Dr. Sweeney for his Mindful Minute presentation earlier today as well. Congratulations to Rima and Bentley. We look forward to your work ahead as chair and vice chair of the council. And that will conclude our meeting for today. Please look for the exit meeting slip where you can continue to provide more feedback to us moving forward. So I just want to say thank you and conclude our meeting today. Thank you all.